they started using microwave then instead of coaxial cable. So we had all the networks, and of course that there was no satellites then, so a television station, if they wanted to do a remote, they did it through our facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Called them camera leads. And we had a lot of camera leads, particularly coming out of South Florida, because there was a lot of programming going on in South Florida for the networks.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a lot of that, and I worked with that. We had a big switching center. It's on Clay Street in Jacksonville, where we switched all the networks. All the network feeds came through us here at Jacksonville here, because even the ones coming out of Atlanta came through us quite often.
And by then you would have had Channel 4, Channel 12, and Channel 7
Yes.
on the air. Maybe not 17 yet.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's so long ago, it's hard
Yeah.
to remember.
Then you went to Voice of America.
Yes, I did 25 years there.
Tell us about Voice of America. Something we know a little bit about, but
The thing about the Voice of America is people don't know about it because it cannot broadcast to the American people by law.
mm-hmm.
The charter for it said that they cannot broadcast to the American people. So it's all overseas. And most people think it was shortwave, and it was shortwave, but there was a lot of what we referred to as medium wave, which is AM here in this country,
Mm-hmm.
and some big ones. For instance, I was on the Island of Rhodes, and we had a 500,000 watt station there, 500,000 watts, plus it was an AM station, medium wave station, plus the shortwave stations. And we had the studios here. We had the Arabic Programming Center. We did all Arabic programming there. And it was very extensive. We had our own newswire, and our communication system was probably one of the best in the world at that time of in that time of history, because we didn't have satellites in. So it was a pretty big operation, because everything that was broadcast originated there, but it had to be passed by somebody in Washington. So everything that was broadcast was first the script and all was done. It was transmitted to Washington for approval, came back to us, approved or modified or whatever, and we broadcasted.
And what would they have been looking for that would have not been approved?
Anything that made the United States look bad, probably.
Okay.
I'm really not sure. I was
that
not
was
involved in that.
But the basic concept was you didn't want to
Do the wrong thing.
and the wrong thing being portray the USA in a bad light.
Somewhat, although actually that did happen quite often. Some of the programming told the bad parts of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
The basic principle that it operated under is what we broadcast was true, and it was. Everything was verified. The news and all this was verified from 3 sources before it was broadcast. So there was no breaking news or anything. Everything was verified before it was put on the air. Of course, sometimes the three sources came from the first original source, so there were some problems. But it was, the agency did not like the word propaganda.
Oh, yes.
So everything was supposed to be, and as close as possible, accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of other things. I used to listen to some of them. I liked some of the things they did. We did programs. I had one particular program called Rivers of the United States. And it was a program each time on a different river in the United States. A lot of things like that, telling people about the United States.
So it would have been available everywhere, virtually around the world, except the U.S.
Except the United States.
Mm-hmm. And radio and TV?
TV later.
Uh-huh.
I worked basically with radio, but I had 2 tours in Washington, D.C. We moved every couple of years. I was a Foreign Service officer.
Mhm.
All of us were. It's the same as the diplomatic corps. So we had tours, the tour was 2 years. Sometimes it'd be 4 years. I spent 5, for instance, in West Africa. But we moved quite often.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like the military.
Yes.
You get
yes.
assignments for a
Yes.
short period of time. And
They give you choices and send you somewhere else.
yeah. And so you said Africa. Where all did you serve?
West Africa, I was there 5 years. It was a big operation too. It was all shortwave.
Mm-hmm.
We had 12 transmitters, 250,000 watts each, plus the communications transmitters. Our communication transmitters were bigger than the radio station transmitters here in the United States. And we had the African Program Center there also. Did programming for Africa. It was pretty difficult. The communications in Africa even today is not good. But those days it was really bad because all of the communications was set up from the former colonies to the mother country. So if you were in Sierra Leone, for instance, and you want to talk to somebody in Ghana or Guinea or somewhere else, you had to go through Europe to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So we had lots of problems that way. So we ran our own communication system.
So tell us a little more about the history of the Voice of America, and does something of its kind exist today?
Voice of America is still around. We don't do
We don't hear
it doesn't do the shortwave broadcasting anymore. All of that was phased out, which was really sad. I thought we should have kept the stateside stations simply so that, well, let me back up again. Interesting things used to happen. I can remember getting calls from a duty officer and saying, all feeds are down. Means we were getting nothing out of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say, of course, bring up all the communications. Then they'd come back later and say, the feeds are back up with solemn music. Something serious had happened. Somebody died or been assassinated or something. So that kind of thing, foreign countries listened for that sort of stuff. So that would tell the Russians or anybody, the Chinese or something, if something's going on in the United States, they better pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I've often felt that we should have kept the stateside stations, or at least the main station in Greenville, North Carolina. It was big. There was 3 sites there.
Mm-hmm.
Kept that with programming because the VOA still makes all these programs. They still broadcast in over 60 languages. But it's the same as, I don't know if you've noticed, Channel 7 carries NHK, BBC, and Deutsche Welle.
Mm-hmm.
The VOA does the same thing in other countries. They contract the programs out. They no longer operate the facilities themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's the internet also and satellite. So I've felt, and I still felt that way, we should have kept at least the Greenville station and use it actually as something to other countries' government, so that they know, what's going on in the United States.
And how long were you at the VOA?
25 years.
Mm-hmm. So that's your major career?
Yes, it was. It was good. I liked it. I miss it.
And I think the interesting thing about the VOA is the word you mentioned that they don't like to hear, propaganda.
Yes.
I don't know what the euphemism is for propaganda, but you do want to transmit to the rest of the world accurate information, and not focus too much on the negative news.
Yes, that was the whole thing. And it was, like I said, they had programs that sort of like variety programs, like that program about the rivers. And there was other things there would programs about how things were in this country.
Yeah, the slippery areas are when you get into politics. and
Yeah,
so forth.
there's very little politics broadcast, very little.
Mhm.
Of course, the presidential speeches and that sort of thing would be broadcast, but nothing. Well, there would be governmental things like how our government operated, and trying to let people know what kind of government we had. I remember that there was a lot of emphasis at one time that the United States government was a republic. Most people, even in our country, most people don't realize that our country is a republic.
Mhm.
It's not really a democracy, it's a democratic republic is what it is. But it's like the ancient Greek republic.
Mhm. So after VOA for 25 years, you came back to Jacksonville.
Yes, and I went into the aviation business.
Mhm.
I did that for quite a few years.
And I guess aviation was of some interest earlier, but you got into it
I
full
started flying actually when I was in high school.
Uh-huh.
I had an uncle that was an aviator.
So you were flying off and on all your life.
Yeah, when I was very young, I bought a wrecked airplane and rebuilt it.
Mhm. And what kind of aviation business did you get into?
It's kind of hard to explain. The FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, does not have enough people to do everything it needs to do. So they authorize other people to do it, and I was one of these people.
On a contract
No,
basis?
I was just independent. They said, I have what was called an inspection authorization. And it allowed me, for instance, if you wanted to set up a corporate aviation, you own a big corporation, you want to buy airplanes, move your people around, you need somebody to do that for you. I could do that sort of thing and be sure your people were trained and we had the right equipment and all that. Also, I was authorized to certify airplanes as airworthy. An airplane needs to have a yearly certification as airworthy. So I could do that. And if you wanted to modify an airplane, I could approve your modifications. There's a lot of that done because they don't have the personnel to do it. And so they authorize other people. And for me, it was business. I mean, they authorized me to do this business, and I charged for it, of course. You could get the same thing done by the FAA for nothing, but it might take you years and years to get it done.
And so now you're completely retired,
Yes,
but you're still involved in you still fly occasionally.
yes. In fact, I still own 3 airplanes. I've got to get rid of those things.
And as you look back on your broadcasting career, because after all, talking to Newman Martindale, just to remind people that we're focusing on the broadcasting part of your life. As you look at radio and television in 2016,
It's different.
what impresses you or
It's
depresses you?
And looking right here, it's different. I was telling you earlier about WMBR rented some cameras from Dumont. Most people don't, it's so long ago, people don't even know what Dumont was. They built television equipment and also had a network. So we rented 2 cameras from them, WMBR did. And those things were huge. They were supposed to be field cameras, but they were huge. It took 2 men to pick one up. And it had an auxiliary unit that had to be within 25 feet of it that was also huge. And then it had the power supplies and all that, which you couldn't move without a crew. It was huge. Everything was done with tubes. And they would overheat. If you did a ball game and you had them out in the sun, they would overheat. And it was pretty crude. I look around here in this studio and it's entirely different.
Well, one thing that would have to impress you, I guess, would be technology.
Yes, it's entirely different.
By
yeah.
comparison, yeah.
Yeah, it's, what we did was, well, like I said, when we first started at WMBR, we didn't have any cameras, just a film camera. And that was interesting. We had 2 film cameras and a slide camera that all went into the 2 film projectors and the slide projector that went into the film camera. And with mirrors to do this.
Right.
And it was regular film projectors, just like people imagine. But quite often the reels of the film would break and it would run off on the floor.
Right.
And you didn't dare move it. If you moved it, it'd get all tangled. You never get it untangled. And that happened all the time, so we just let it run on the floor. When it got through, reel it back in by hand. All kind of things like that happened.
Yeah.
Stuff didn't work very good.
And the legendary problems of live television, because everything is live, including commercials for the most part. So there were all kinds of mistakes and so forth.
Yeah, well, we didn't have tape recorders or any of that
No.
kind of stuff. So all kind of unusual things happened. Well, it happened in radio too, you know. When I first started in radio, for a while I worked in the control room. And, you know, there'd be some guy playing records or something, and he'd cue the thing up wrong or put it at the wrong speed or something. You had to be careful when you opened your mic, opened his mic, for what he might say.
Yep, yep. Well, any thing that you would like to mention that I haven't asked you about?
I can't think of anything offhand, except I look around this place and I haven't been in a television station in 30 years, and it's different, really different.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Well, Newman Martindale, enjoyed the oral history interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad I'll be able to get here with you.
Okay. How long was that?